From the land of partially frozen lakes, this is 10,000 Takes, brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another month as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. Well, Wally, a lot to chew on. Boy, the weather, we've gone from blizzards to rain. I'm seeing 70s in the forecast next week. I mean,
you look like you're expecting floods, man.
Yeah, I am. I'm packing sandbags. If it's going to get to 70 with all this snow, where's it going to go?
Well, I don't know, but it's good that you wear a life jacket on the air. Marty McFly.
It's a flotation device.
Marty McFly returns.
It doubles as my outfit and a flotation device.
The name of the show is 10,000 Takes, not 10,000 Lakes.
Well, maybe 11,000 lakes after all this snow melts.
That's a good point.
So, and because they're all going to go into the potholes. It's a horrible pothole season, worse than normal. Yeah. I saw a pothole the other day that was bigger than the craters on the moon.
Oh, well, there you go. Better get your front end alignment fixed on that car of yours.
Oh, boy.
All right. Well, let's start with the Twins. They got off to a great start on the road, winning all three in Kansas City, then going into Miami and winning. But they had their home opener pushed back to Friday because of the weather, as we predicted. But the key piece to this start that they got in Kansas City is the pitching. Their starting pitching was lights out for 3 days in Kansas City and the first game in Miami, at least, minimum.
I don't think there's any doubt. And I think the Twins believe they may not have that bona fide ace. They may not have that Jacob deGrom or Clayton Kershaw type, but they think they have 4 or 5 guys who are 2 or 3s.
Right.
And they don't have a 5th starter, if you know what I mean. So they have a collection of very good pitchers. Early on, that's played out. I mean, Pablo Lopez in his debut, smashing, right, in Kansas City. Tyler Mahle was good. Joe Ryan was excellent. You know, Kenta Maeda's coming back from Tommy John surgery. So the early signs are good. A lot of optimism for the Twins. And, you know, you also have to take care of business against these teams that are bottom-rung franchises,
bottom
like
feeders.
Kansas City.
And Miami.
Like Miami, and you're on the road. So I think there's reason for this team to believe it can win. They have a lot of talent.
They do.
If they stay on the field, who knows?
And that's the key, I think, to this whole thing. 2 things, pitching and health.
Yes.
Can they keep Byron Buxton in the lineup, and will he be able to go onto the outfield at some point? I mean, you know, right now they're protecting him. They're DHing him. And Carlos Correa, how many games are we going to get out of Carlos Correa this year? Now, he sat out about, 25 or 30 last year. Are they going to be that careful again this year? Or now that he has his contract, does he get more? Is Rocco going to rest him even more?
Well, and that's part of it. I believe guys like Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton and the pitchers, especially Sonny Gray, he's been vocal about it. They in the case of the pitchers, they want to stretch it out. Go 5, 6, 7 innings unless they're scuffling.
No doubt.
A guy like Correa and Buxton, they don't want to miss games. They've been unfortunate and unlucky. But I think part of it is this mindset the Twins have of, you know, they immediately when they sense the guy has a, you know, that maybe he might have a cold, hey, out of the lineup, right?
Oh, boy.
And I think maybe they're changing their thinking. If you look at the early results of the way Rocco handled the starting pitching. Now, of course, those guys were doing good. There was no reason to yank them. But in the past, we've seen Rocco go out with the hook,
quick hook,
4th or 5th inning, and take a guy out who's doing very well, and who's dealing.
And the flip side of that, of course, is that you put a lot of pressure on your bullpen.
Yes.
And you keep using them over and over and over again. It's one thing to get into a groove. You know, maybe a guy's pitching 2 days, and then maybe he has a couple of days off. It's another thing to have to run him out there 3 straight days, or 3 out of 4 days, or 4 out of 5 days, and to keep having to go deeper into your bullpen. You know, once you've used your top relievers in a critical situation, if you have to keep doing that, man, you're going to burn those guys out. And the more they're seen, the less effective they are.
Right. It takes a toll. So you need your starting guys to go 5, 6, preferably 7 innings. That would be the ideal situation. A couple of other bright spots, I would say early. Joey Gallo looks like a steal right now. Trevor Larnach's bat is heating up. How's Max Kepler going to do? If they get Max Kepler from the Bomba days,
Right.
That's going to be huge for Minnesota because he's an excellent right fielder. I've never been concerned about his glove. He's just got to get that batting average back up and hit 20 to 25 home runs.
I would agree. All right. Before we take a break, we should get into your Minnesota Wild here. They are playoff bound. They punched their playoff ticket. Now it's just a matter of where are they going to finish. Can they win the division and get themselves some home ice? And more importantly, maybe, who are they going to match up against in the postseason?
It's a heated race in the Central with Dallas, with Colorado. When is Kirill coming back? We saw him at a Timberwolves game against the Lakers last week. He came to see LeBron. He was walking. I'm guessing he's going to be skating soon.
Well, he's been skating in practice.
Right. So they got to get Kirill back. They've done well without him, and Matt Boldy has been fire on ice, but ultimately they got to have Kirill if they're going to go deep into the postseason. And you're right. That first-round matchup is critical. I think deep down they want Seattle.
Yeah.
They don't want Colorado or Dallas.
Well, you and I saw them play Seattle, and they kicked them all over XL Energy Center.
Yeah. All right, much more coming up. We'll talk hoops with Kevin Lynch from the Timberwolves broadcast team. We are 10K Takes, your Twins ticket.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
$10,000 Takes rolls along, and so does the NBA regular season. It comes to a conclusion on Sunday, I believe. And so what better time than to talk to Kevin Lynch about your Minnesota Timberwolves, who have stumbled here down the stretch as they head towards a possible postseason berth. I guess first and foremost, Kevin, what in the world is with this club? You can't figure them out. They win games that you don't think they're going to win. They lose games that they shouldn't lose. Your take.
Yeah, I'm confused too. I mean, you guys might want to get some juicy inside take on me on 10,000 takes, but I'm kind of confused as well with these guys. It's just they lose to Detroit, Charlotte, San Antonio, teams that are tanking, and then early in the season maybe they weren't tanking, but they're just bad teams, and I don't know what to say. I think that this is their most talented roster they've ever had. But the results don't. Obviously, Towns out of the lineup has hurt them. But and they changed point guards in the middle of the season, so that affects what's going on too. But throughout the season, but I don't know what to say. I can't figure this team out. It's a roller coaster. I mean, good win. What they did out in California on the road was impressive. Right when they needed some good stuff happening, Towns coming back, a lot of positivity, and then they just have a loss that's unexplainable, like Portland. So it's just, I don't know what's going on with these guys. That's my answer.
Their team yo-yo, as Wally said, up one night, down the next. Yeah. How can this season be called a success? Let's assume they get into the play-in and then advance to the playoffs. Do they need to win at least one round to say this was a successful season? Because there were high hopes going in based on what we saw last year, where they, lost in 6 games to Memphis, but they blew 3 double-digit leads. I think people thought this team was ready to take the next step.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I think, yes, they do need to win a series. I think if they get there, let's say they played, Denver, getting that ace spot, they'd have a chance against the Nuggets. If you ask me, Denver's not – they've had a good season, but they're not – Golden State from 3, 4, 5 years ago or whatever. So, but I think so. I think they'd have to win a series. I mean, they had that series. They had Memphis down last year, just like you said, Eric, and with a lesser roster. And I don't know, man. If they can get into that 7th or 8th seed or what 8th seed it'd be, then they got a chance to maybe. They'd have a chance against Denver, if you ask me. So yeah, they'd have to win a series for this season. to be considered a good one. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is a situation where you won't see the results of the Gobert trade and things will kind of settle down next year. Maybe this will be a situation where the first year is kind of a throwaway season, figuring things out. And then next year, this is my hope, that they play better next year and they could turn into a top 4 or 5 team in the West. I mean, they're not that this year, but I thought they could be. But, yeah, they need to advance for this to be to get some more positive vibes to go into the summer and next season.
All right, what's your take? What's your feeling on what went on with Karl Anthony Towns this past Sunday against Portland, where he only took 3 shots? I know that they want him to distribute the ball more. So did Cat just say, okay, I'm not going to shoot, let's see how we do, and only take 3 shots? What's your take on it?
I think he might be right. I was in the pregame press conference, and Chris Finch, and I agree with what Finch said before the game on Sunday, is he said, we've learned how to play without this guy all season. So now that he's back, I think it's a good idea to not just isolate him and run the offense through him like you were going to at the beginning of the season, but take it slow. And he said, this is what Finch said before the game. He said, let's just have him get most of his offense through the flow of what you're doing. And to me, that's the right approach, instead of isolating him. And he's a good isolation player too, but let's just start it slow. And I would not be surprised if guys do this. They get mad. They sometimes pout. And I think you're right. I'm going to show you. You guys need me more than maybe you think. I want to be isolated and get me the ball when I want it. And I would not be surprised if that's part of it. So, I mean, and the funny thing is ever since Towns was a rookie, he's always talked about, I want to be a leader. I want to lead this team. Leading. And a part of being a good leader is, things aren't going to always go your way. It's not going to be on your terms all the time. You're not going to be isolated and get exactly what you want. And yet you still have to be in front of the team encouraging and so there's a chance that he was mad, and I'm going to show you. He's kind of done some of this stuff before, actually, so where he takes 5 shots or 3 shots. So if that's the case, I heard Kyle Anderson was pretty pissed off after that game, and so there's a leader right there. And so it's I don't know. They better figure this stuff out, and Towns better get his head right and just accept what your role is right now. So I don't know.
Kevin, let's look at the glass as being half empty, which is really the Timberwolves tradition. If they crater, let's say they go into the play-in and they're out right away, one and done. Do they look at dangling Cat? They don't have any draft choices. I mean, they peddled everything to get Rudy Gobert in that blockbuster. Cat would get you something on the market. There's no doubt about it. He's an all-star. Would they even think about that? Or would they do what you say? Wait till next season and they figure that'll be the year everything comes together because it'll crystallize and these guys will learn how to play together.
I think people ask me that all the time. I wouldn't do that. If I'm running this team, I would give it another year. You still don't even know how many games has Towns and Gobert played with each other? Not even 25 or 20, something like that, 25 games. I don't think you really know exactly how the fit will be long term. So that's kind of a knee-jerk thing. I wouldn't do it just yet. Towns would get a lot, no question about it. Everybody would want that guy, or most teams would. So, but I'm not ready to do that. I think you stick with this and give it another season. That's my answer.
All right. Speaking of giving another season, do you think that Coach Chris Finch is potentially in trouble if either they miss the play-in or they get in the play-in and they lose right away?
I don't think so. I mean, I think he's a good coach. I like him, and I think it's the same type of thing. They spent most of the season without their best player or one of their best players, and then they changed point guards in the middle of the season. No, I'm not ready to do that either. I'm one of those guys that still thinks that this going big thing with Gobert and Towns can work. I like Finch. These guys like playing for this coach. I like them. And I'm not just saying that. I like this guy. I think he knows what he's doing. It hasn't worked out great this year so far. Then they, haven't lived up to whatever expectations. But I'm not ready to say that yet. No.
All right. So you like Cat. You like Chris Finch. You're preaching patience, which for 32 years, Timberwolves Nation has had to be very patient. That said, we're still in this state of transition. Glenn Taylor handing it off to A-Rod and Mark Lowry. What do you know about these two new owners, and do you believe they'll be able to elevate the franchise?
Well, what do you mean by elevate? I mean, what?
Get them, better than where they are. Win more, make the right personnel decisions, because he's had some whiffs, as we all know.
Yeah. I have no idea. I mean, I was a player, and it's just like, all I know is what my experience was when I was a player. I mean, that's the closest experience to what you're talking about as far as what an owner can do for a team. I didn't care much about who the owner was back when I was playing. I just played, man. I always laugh when like Magic Johnson became a part owner of the Dodgers, and he was publicly saying, "Oh, I'm going to recruit baseball talent to Los Angeles." It's like most of these players, baseball players, and Major League Baseball or NBA guy, they don't care who the owners are. It's just like, is it a warm weather city or is it not? Or I don't know. Some of this stuff, I don't think owners are going to do that much, to be honest with you. Magic Johnson didn't. How has the Charlotte Hornets done since Michael Jordan has owned the?
Oh boy.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I mean, the things that matter is hiring the guy who runs the player decisions. The president of basketball operations. That matters, no question about it. Then that guy, along with the owners, will be a part of hiring a coach. So that can matter. So it does matter. But what I know is, as when I was a player, I didn't concern myself much with all that kind of stuff with the owners. I just was looking to play, and that was it. I didn't worry about everything else.
All right. Last question for you as you take a sip. Where do you think this season is going to end for the Wolves?
I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, it's just like their whole season has been this, right?
Yeah.
Win a game, lose a game, win two, lose two. It's the whole season's been that. And even within games, they're just kind of up and down too. So I have no idea. I like this team. I like the roster. There's talent there, as I've said. I like Mike Conley way better than D'Angelo Russell. That's a way better fit. And if they can get their heads right, they can actually do something. And I hope they do. So I have no idea, guys. I don't know what's going to happen. They could flame out and be done in the play-in. They could squeak in number 8 seed and give Denver some problems. They could beat Denver in the first round too. So that's all I know, guys. What do you think about that?
Well, this just in. Valley Fair is going to name their next roller coaster Timberwolf. Because as you said, that's all it is.
Up and down.
That's right.
Kevin, appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you during the playoffs. How's that for a prediction?
Yeah, I like it. Thanks, guys. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right. He is Kevin Lynch, former Minnesota Gopher, current Timberwolves television analyst, right here on 10,000 Takes. Stay with us.
Taxes don't have to be taxing, not with Keller Tax Service. For over 20 years, Linda Keller has prepared taxes for all types of professions and businesses. She has perfected the virtual tax appointment through phone or video. With Keller Tax Service, you never leave home. Call Keller Tax Service at 320-352-0013 or check out Keller Tax Service online at kellertaxservice.com. Take the anxiety out of taxes with Keller Tax Service at kellertaxservice.com.
10,000 Takes continues. Wally and Marty McFly here. So this past week, we get the memo that your folks at the Minnesota Sports Facilities Commission, they need some more dough to upkeep your favorite stadium, the House of Noise, the Glass House, U.S. Bank Stadium. $280 million over the next 10 years to keep it at its current level and or make improvements. Now, you may look at that and say, well, $28 million a year, that seems like a lot. Well, I got news for you. It is a lot. That's a lot of dough, isn't it?
It is, especially this early on in the ball game.
It's only 7 years old.
Right. I know that stadiums and arenas age in dog years. They really do. They get old quick.
Yeah.
And this, the Vikings like to think it's the most state-of-the-art venue in the NFL. Well, they're wrong. It isn't. I mean, it's just that's how fast things change technology-wise. But beyond that, a boondoggle, in my opinion. I mean, the whole premise of this thing was to lure in these major events and be the new home of the Vikings. Well, the Super Bowl's come and gone, and I'll guarantee you it's not coming here in 20 years minimum.
Well,
would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, especially now that Chicago's going to get a dome.
Right.
They're going to steal all of the upper Midwest stuff.
The Final Four used to be something you could count on in Minneapolis once every 8 to 10 years.
Right.
Well, we've had our Final Four. Minnesota's not even in the rotation through like 2030. So and now you have more competition like Chicago. Nashville is going to get a dome. Vegas has a dome now. SoFi, Inglewood. So we're not going to get a Final Four anytime soon. So basically, we're stuck with the purple in there, the monster truck pulls, the concerts with the bad acoustics, and who wants to go to a concert there in July inside?
No, nobody. That's the last place I want to be is inside in July, especially after this winter we've just had.
Exactly.
So $280 million, and think about that. What did they pay to build Metrodome back in 1982?
$55 million.
$55
Then they ponied up a little more for the air conditioning they didn't put in.
So add another $230 million to that, and you have repairs to the current structure. And I guarantee you this. They say $280 million over the next 10 years. That's the low end.
Yeah, inflation.
It's going to go up,
and I know the water's gone under the bridge, but I'll say what I said a few years ago. For $700 million, you could have built an open-air stadium in the burbs with a lot of tailgating, a huge footprint for people to go in and have fun before and after the game. Instead, we get stuck with this downtown dome. And you could have kept the Metrodome and used it for all your other indoor events because it was already paid off.
That's true. Although I will flip the script on you. I think that the other option that they should have and didn't consider, of course, and we've been over this a million times, is they could have made this thing retractable so that when you do have a concert in July and when you do have beautiful days in September, October, and even early November for football, have that thing open so your Minnesota Vikings could be playing outdoor football.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I've seen games in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil where I've seen it with the roof shut and with the roof open. And when that thing's open, wonderful experience. Not so much when it's closed.
No. What else is new?
Yeah, you're right.
Indoor sterile football.
Homogenous.
And only another $280 million to keep her rolling.
Oh, boy.
All right, more to come. Takes of the day coming up next. You're watching 10,000 Takes. Your U.S. Bank Stadium ticket.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earrings. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
$10K Takes on television as we get set to wrap up yet another episode. Before we go, we'll have takes of the day. And also, we should get into Minnesota United, the MLS team here in the Twin Cities. Off to a good start. They knocked off previously undefeated St. Louis City last week down in Missouri, and they were an expansion team that had started out of the gates incredibly fast, but Minu's winning.
Yeah, they're winning, and they've been winning despite the inclement weather that they've had to play in here in the Twin Cities. And I know you're in favor of it, playing outside, and they've got a great vibe over at Allianz Field. I haven't been there this year, but went last year and went several times pre-pandemic. That was just, it's different. They've got that dark cloud section at one end of the stadium and it's all organic too. It's not like a Timberwolves game or even a Wild or a Vikings or Twins where all that stuff is piped in and it's not as organic. You go to one of these games, it's way different.
It's a passionate fan base. The dark clouds don't even have seats, so they're standing the whole
all the
match.
time. You're right.
And you're right. Nobody tells them when to cheer. There's nothing on the video board or the ribbon board saying stand up and clap. It is organic. And I think I'm going to go the end of the month when they take on Dallas FC.
Okay.
So maybe you'll be out there as well.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. Takes of the day. We got to find out what your mood is.
Okay.
Are you a demanding diva, a soggy cornflake, a salty skipper? What is it today?
A soggy cornflake. Wow. Drowning it in milk, huh?
Yeah.
Well, as you know, a number of changes in Major League Baseball instituted this year. Rules changes. You're allowed to put advertising on your uniforms. I see that the Miami Marlins have a patch for ADT or whatever that is, some computer company or security. I have no idea. So that's going on their sleeve, and there are others as well. But I think the most noticeable one, of course, is pitch clock, and it has speeded the games up, sped it up, however you want to say it. Games now ranging in the 2.5 hours to 2:45 range. For the most part, pretty good. I watched a game last weekend that had Cleveland and Seattle went 2 hours and 3 minutes. I mean,
like Major League Soccer.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it was like an MLS match. So here's my question. When are owners going to wake up and realize that this is costing them money? That's 1 hour less from last year of people in your stadium buying your popcorn, beer, concessions, whether it's jerseys or souvenirs. That's an hour less of that going on in your stadium now. So in other words, they're not spending as much money as they might have in past years. I think what's going to happen is at the end of the year, the owners are going to look at, hey, wait a minute, our concessions are way down. Plus the fact that you're on TV and on the radio less. So that's less exposure of your product. Because whether that game is 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, 3.5 hours, that time is already slotted. You're not paying any extra for that time on the air. So I am thinking that owners at some point are going to wake up and realize, hey, wait a minute, we didn't sell as much stuff this year. We got to change something. And hopefully they'll think about at least lengthening that pitch clock a little bit. I like to see it go to 20 and 25 instead of 15.
Well, they may tinker. We'll see. Let's check out the mood meter, too, by the way. You are a demanding diva.
Yeah.
But if they keep things the way they currently are, then they're just going to jack up those concession prices. That $7 bottle of Aquafina will be $10. That Coors Light will be $11.
Well, I just don't buy it then.
Those soggy nachos will go up to 10. So get ready. All right. Well, my take of the day, you talk about a product. We just finished the college basketball season. And, great run for Brian Dutcher and San Diego State. Kudos to UConn. 5th title in the Huskies history for the men. The women have won a ton.
Yes.
But dare I say it, I think the NCAA women's tournament upstaged the men. Thanks to Caitlin Clark at Iowa and Angel Reese at LSU. They had that championship match in Dallas. Won by LSU.
Right.
Angel was trash talking. She was chirping. But Caitlin Clark does the same thing. And this generated a huge buzz. The Twitterverse blew up. Some people going against Angel, others supporting her. I say, look, if Caitlin can do it, Angel can do it. But the bottom line is this. People were talking about that women's game on Final Four Monday. I didn't hear a peep. It was crickets previewing the Aztecs and the Huskies.
Yeah, it was all about what was going on the day before in the women's tournament.
So Angel and Caitlin have literally propped up NCAA women's hoops. And where do they go from here? We'll see.
Yeah. Don't think that women's basketball coaches are looking on that unfavorably. I bet they look at it and say, hey, they're talking about our game.
You're garnering a lot of attention. We're talking about it among others.
Yeah, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
On that note, let's FedEx out our thank yous. One to David Weld, also one to Kevin Lynch and Rocky. For Wally, I'm Eric saying so long. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.